Hi, good morning. I'm Mary Greensmith, and I suddenly realised this morning that I had a question on our Facebook group that I hadn't answered. So I thought I would do that with this video this morning. And it's a question about having vertigo. And I asked, okay, where did this come from? When did it start? Because vertigo is such a big subject. To give you some idea of how big the subject is, in my Murphy's repertory, I've got a whole chapter on vertigo. So just under vertigo itself, I've got over 300 possible remedies. I then have about 10-15 pages about all of the different circumstances that vertigo we could be looking at the remedies. So you can see it's far too big and far too complex to be treating with a first aid remedy. So where would we start? So let's have a look. So first of all, the answer that came back was, well, it was probably an emotional shock. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So because there's so many remedies that could be to do with the vertigo, obviously what we need to know is go through the details. So we need to know when it's worse and what happens. So what time of day it's worse, what happens, whether you fall over, whether your vision is affected, whether you feel sick. There's so many different modalities that we need to go through to get the precise detail of the vertigo. We then need to do the same with the emotional shock. Now, obviously, vertigo can be caused from huge traumas, from grief, from anything that has happened and that you're holding inside you. And of course, this is a whole nother subject about how we hold trauma in our bodies and how it comes out as a physical symptom. So we'll talk about that in detail another time, because it's such a good subject to discuss. So once I know more about the trauma, and I don't need to know what happens with the trauma, I need to know the emotion that was held. I need to know how that emotion manifests, because quite often we have the same repeating emotion for trauma, because one trauma triggers a previous trauma. Once I know a little bit more about that, we can then start to match the symptoms with the vertigo. So, for instance, we know that grief that is held and is constant, Ignatia is a brilliant remedy. And Ignatia certainly does have vertigo, and it certainly does have repeating symptoms over and over again. Remedies like cocculus as well, with vertigo with sickness and nausea, it is a very good remedy. So by putting the two together, we're getting much closer. So we go through all of the details for the vertigo, all of the details for the trauma, and find out which remedy covers the whole detail. We then need to check just with the medical history to see if there's anything particular that shows that the body reacts in a certain way at different points, and these just act as check marks really, so that we can make sure that we're in the right field, or there's nothing that we're missing from previous times. But often a situation like this, if it's been going on for some months or years, it might be led. So the emotional shock might have been one, or it might have been a series of different things happening over a number of years, and then suddenly you have the straw that breaks the camel's back, effectively. So a last trauma that ultimately results in the symptom that you're expressing now. And of course, this becomes habit for your body to have this emotion and this trigger when certain things happen. So just to recap, we need all of the details. I mean, just to give you some ideas, I've just got my book here. The vertigo, the questions we're asking, does it happen when you're sitting, standing, or lying down in bed? Does it affect your stomach? Does it affect your eyes? Does it happen more when you go to stand up? When you're stretching, when you're turning, does it affect, do you feel as if you're going round and round, or is your vision obscured in any way? And there are lots of different variations to that. Obviously, vomiting and nausea is a huge aspect of that. And how does your vision happen? Does it appear that the walls come closer to you, or that they're spinning? And we need to know all of that detail. We then go through the trauma of the emotion that you felt when this first started. So if it was a grief, then how did that affect you, so that we can find the right sort of remedies. So did it make you angry? Did it make you cry continuously? Was it an anger or a crying that you were holding inside you and not able to express at the time? All of these reactions at the time are relevant to the symptom you're experiencing now, because it's quite often that we find that something that's happened in the past is what's causing your symptoms, and how you express your symptoms, how you experience those symptoms will be the key. So I hope this was helpful, just a good insight into what we do with homeopathy to find the right remedy on more complex subjects. It is obviously something that you will need help and support with, especially if it's a trauma in the past. Okay, all for now. Lovely to speak to you. Speak to you soon.